You're listening to the Dibbly-Dobbly podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Yes, but we move on, Brad, and talk about Australian cricket. And I wanted to touch on some areas here, talk about the men's team because you've been around them for a while. Talk about the Border Gavaskar Trophy, the Sri Lanka Tests, and the Champions Trophy recently for Australia, and look ahead to the World Test Championship final. The tour of the West Indies for Australia, the Test matches there, which is exciting, and then obviously the big one at the end of the year, the next summer, the Ashes. So, Bharat, first of all, the men's team. You've been around them for years. You've spoken to Pat Cummins quite frequently. You've spoken to Marnus, who you're very good buddies with, and Marnus is a weird character. He reminds me of the Energizer Bunny and someone who likes their cheese sandwiches cold. Must be it's on a different planet. Then you've got Steve Smith. Then you've got these legends of Australian cricket, Lyon, Stark, Hazelwood, doing what they're doing, and Smith breaking records. And you predicted his return to form during the series against India, Bharat. And you said, I called it first. He's going to come back. He found his hand. What makes this Australian team so great? And there is going to be a period of transition. Of course, we've seen it with Constance and Connolly coming in. So your thoughts on that, Brad? Why is this Australian team so good? And they've won everything basically since Pat Cummins has taken charge. And the transition phase going forward, we're in for another sticky few years after this current crop of great players finally do hang up and pull up stumps.
Yeah, look, I think firstly it's the atmosphere in this dressing room, and it feels like such a grounded dressing room. Pat Cummins has had a big role to play in it. It's like being fortunate enough to know Pat very well. He's worldly wise and he's curious. He spoke about curiosity. He's curious about the world. He's curious about what's happening in the world, and that I think gives him so much of a better perspective over sport. Like, sport is a part of what he does. It's not the be all end all for him. And then I think that trickle down effect from there. And with this team, I think that I've seen them treat success and failure pretty equally. Obviously, there are some defeats that hurt a lot. There are some victories like the MCG one this time against India that mean a lot to them. But I think overall, whether when they lost the Test series in India or when they won the World Cup in India later that year, or so many moments like, the 2023 Ashes, the high of Birmingham and the low of Leeds and the Oval and all of those, I think they're just able
Manchester
to beat
as well.
Manchester. At least they got out of it thanks to Marnus, and or just on Marnus, you use the word weird. I have a very interesting relationship with the word weird. I don't think he's weird. He's like me.
He's quirky. He's
quirky. He's just himself. I wouldn't even say he's different. People call me different. I'm like, no, I'm not different. I'm just being myself. So, but he is who he is. And again, that's another huge. I don't know whether it's change or not, but that's a huge factor why this Australian team is so successful, because the atmosphere I spoke about, they're allowed to be themselves. Like, Steve Smith can be Steve Smith, Marnus can be Marnus, Uzi can be Uzi, and Usman Khawaja is a great example of that. He speaks so often these days about finally finding himself in the last few years and just being who he is, what he's wearing, to how he trains and everything else. Till the time you're successful in the middle, none of it should matter. In the sense, like what I said earlier about the work I do, till the time I'm providing you with content and providing you with the product you want, it shouldn't matter what I sound like or what I look like or what I wear. So I think that's been the huge change with these guys. And I just, and the exposure that they have to the world as well. Most of them go and play in the IPL, if not the IPL, in the other leagues. And it is, especially if you come from a first world country, spending, even though they stay in lavish hotels and they the life of an IPL cricketer is pretty plush in terms of the way you get taken care of. Just spending 2 months in India every year is a humbling experience. It gives you so much of a different outlook to life. You see, even when you're traveling in the bus and if you just pull the curtain, you see such things that you will never see in Australia or never dream of seeing in Australia. I think that has played a big role as well. And not just what they see on the street, even interacting with young Indian players, if you play in the IPL, or young Pakistanis if you play in the PSL. They're like, how they've come through the ranks and the challenges that they've overcome. It just gives you a different perspective, right? And then you start like stop treating every defeat like the end of the world and every victory as like, you being on top of the world. And I think they're also, a lot of them are at a stage of their lives where they're partners and husbands and fathers, and you see all these kids running around, and that has played a huge role. I think the more time I've seen
That's
this
always
team,
the case, isn't it, Bharat? You're a changed cricketer once you have kids and a
yeah,
family.
and when there are so many of you in that same boat, I think makes it even better. And it's the same with the one day team as well. If you throw in an Adam Zampa in there, so I think they're very settled as people. They're settled in their own skin. They're settled as sports people, and I think that's why the dressing room is as settled as it is. So, Champions Trophy was whatever it was. Like, they played only 2 games. They won
They made
famously
the
against
semi-finals.
England.
That's good enough, isn't
Yeah,
it?
exactly. They were maybe 30 runs away from making the finals. Who knows the way that game went? So it's one of those things. So I think, and also what I said earlier, the player power thing has also been a huge thing for a lot of them. They're more comfortable in their futures, like, and they're more secure. And I think about it. Whatever you do in life, that security plays such a big role. And the best contrast I can show is Pakistan. Like, Pakistan dressing rooms, as Jason Gillespie would have found out, you're not allowed to be settled just because of the way the structure of cricket there is. And so, yeah, I think that security has played a huge role. And look, they're just some of the nicest cricketers I've met. Like, they're nice people. They can have like normal conversations with pretty much all of them. Like, yeah, and I've grown really fond of all of them. Like, we have like interesting relationships with different types. Like, obviously you said Manas and Pat and a few of the others I'm very close to, but just even the others who I'm probably not very close to, we have a very nice relationship. And yeah, look, I'm just there doing my job really, and then going home and to the wife and the dogs and the chickens. So it's again. So I think a lot of it, and with Pat in particular, I think the one thing we've really bonded over is just, again, that perspective we have on life. For different reasons, we come from extremely different backgrounds, but I'm very grateful that him and Manas wanted to be a part of the Australian story and talk about me. But you could see even the way they spoke about me, that they with Manas, we connect over being who we are and different and unique in that sense. With Pat, it's just like, this perspective, like, we don't, every day is different, and like, there's so much more to life than just like, the high of a victory, or like, you celebrate the good times in your life, obviously you do, but you can't go overboard with it. But at the same time, you can't let every little failure like, drag you down. So I think which is why this team is it's a happy dressing room, and B, also a very successful one.
Yeah, absolutely. You get that feeling from just watching them, how they go about their cricket as well. They're not that Australian team that we used to seeing in yesteryear, being nasty and aggressive. And obviously that changed after Cape Town, obviously, when all that happened. But they just come across as a good team, and they just keep winning because they like to win. So that's what Australian team do.
Again, it's also change. Like, Australia is changing as a country, and that's being reflected right now in the dressing room. I think it'll be reflected even more when it becomes even more multicultural, when Usman Khawaja stops being the only South Asian man to play Test cricket. And I think that will change more and more. Like, when you get people from different backgrounds coming in as well, and then you'll see the dressing room kind of like, reflect the rest of. And I think Australia as a country is also kind of coming to grips with how much it's changing, and so I think it's a good reflection of what's happening.
Yeah, definitely. And especially the way they played against India and Sri Lanka recently. They've done well there, which are pretty good 2 victories. And then the Champions Trophy, obviously. So looking ahead, Bharat, WTC, I think we know what's going to happen in the Tour of the West Indies, obviously, and the Ashes. Where do you see those next assignments for Australia going in terms of the potential success for them in those tournaments?
Look, the World Test Championship final is going to be interesting. Early June as well at Lord's. two great fast bowling attacks. So South Africa are an interesting team. A lot of people have criticized their journey to the World Test Championship final, but they can only do what they the cards that they were dealt with. So they won what they had to win, regardless of who they had to beat. But they've got to the final, and now that it's a one match shootout, you they have the bowling, which often is all you need, in a game of that magnitude, and it being a one-off, and with their fast bowlers, they should be in a position to make the most of the conditions, whether it's Rabada or Youngson or Nokia or all those guys. And at the same time, Australia have the bowling attack. So Australia will definitely be favorites. I mean, when you compare team versus team, Australia obviously have the better batting lineup, more established batting lineup as compared to South Africa. South Africa had some young guys doing really well, for sure, in recent times. But the Caribbean, well, firstly, it's good that Australia going there after 10 years. So I love going to the Caribbean every time I get a chance to do that. So I'm looking forward to it. But it's in the pitches there, West Indies, funnily enough, are very strong on West Indian soil, right? I can totally see them pull off at least one test win. The West Indies, that is, maybe not as famous as the one at the Gabba, nothing compares to that, but still, I think they will be competitive. I'll be intrigued to see the makeup of Australia's team once Cam Green comes back, who goes where and where he fits in. Does he come back into number 4? And if he does, then what happens to Marnus and where does he bat? And so a lot of question marks. And it's a fun period that we're getting into in terms of Australia. The transition you spoke about, Sam Constis, there'll be a lot of hype around him, as there should be. And the transition of the bowling attack as well will be exciting. I don't see it happen anytime soon. So we'll see the same. The big 4 with Stark, Cummins, Hazelwood, Lyon, and the big 5, I should say, with Boland playing a big role during the home Ashes as well. But I mean, the home Ashes will be funny. We've had so many one-sided Ashes series in Australia that I don't know the last time there was a competitive series. I mean, even when England won in 2010-11, that was pretty one-sided in England's favor overall, if you look at it. So it's been a while since, in the last 3, we know how they've gone. So the last one in particular. But I mean, to use a wrestling analogy, it's a perfect payoff, as they say, right? Sport is beautiful that way. Like wrestling, you can build long-term story angles. So baseball is born out of the destruction of England, the old England in Australia 4 years ago.
And also another point is the pitches as well.
Yeah,
interesting.
Absolutely. They will seem around. They will be similar to what we saw against India, you'd think, which could even the odds, or which could really put Australia ahead if England continue to play. And also, look, they banked so much on Mark Wood and Jofra Archer, in particular, being fit.
He's out for like 4 months or something now.
Exactly. The next test he'll play will be the Ashes. So good for India, who will be playing 5 tests in England. But so, I mean, let's face it. Whatever baseball is, or whatever you want to call it, it's all about the Ashes, right? It's like they've thrown all their eggs into one basket. Ben Stokes, it doesn't matter if you don't score a run for another 4 years. Ben Stokes, till the time you are in one piece and you're there at the helm for the Ashes in Australia, it's fine. And similarly, all the other results, if you ask them, will not, all the white ball disappointments in the last 2 years will lead to nothing if they can win the Ashes. So yeah, so it'll be interesting. Looking forward to it. There'll be a lot of drama off field as well. So we'll be busy.
Well, maybe we'll have to catch up, Bharat, during the Adelaide Test.
Oh, for sure. Oh, not maybe. We definitely should. Yeah,
absolutely. When I go there and watch a Test match in Adelaide. But yeah, that's going to be interesting, isn't it? That series. I think I have Australia ahead with the bowling more so than the batting can hold its own, obviously, but that's where England is going to be tested the most, is that bowling attack. And if you're facing Scott Boland on a lively MCG wicket or an SCG wicket we saw on the test against India, you're in.
No, I have them well ahead, well ahead in the series.
Yeah, definitely. So it's interesting to hear your thoughts on that, Bharat, in terms of how it's going to go for Australia in the next few months. There's a lot of cricket to be played. So thank you for your insights there. And I hope everyone listening and watching will certainly listen to your thoughts on those particular things that we mentioned. Now, Bharat. Hi, everyone. Hope you enjoyed hearing Bharat and I discuss Australian cricket.